talking about?
Because it's a Jekyll Island in Georgia. That's why.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to another live edition of Legends from the Past and Future Show. I am Armand, and tonight we have our super show hosts, Ayana Muyel and Roger Parker. Ayana, how you doing?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Roger, how you doing?
I'm hanging on in there, man. I'm trying to figure out where Yana said she was. I thought she said she was in San Francisco somewhere.
I wish.
Every time you turn around, you know. I'm waiting for her to say she on the moon. I'm gonna be mad if I ain't catch that ride up there.
Yeah, Roger, you're the one with the hookup. You know, you got the $25 flights to Hawaii, and I'm still waiting. On that.
They ain't got no $25 flight to the moon, though.
I know that's right. Hey, look,
I'm definitely waiting on that one.
We had a nice time last Friday at the golf event. Man, it was a great time with Alabama A&M. Sorry you couldn't make it, Ayana, but I tell you, boy, it was really, really good. What you think about that time we had last week, Ryan?
Oh, it was on point. I mean, it would have been better if Ayana was there, but like, you know, she traveling all the time. I think she was in Australia during that time, but yeah, we had a good time, and we met possibly another sponsor and everything, and then watched the golf tournament. And, you know, them mugs was hitting that liquor early in the morning. I went and told them, it's 8:30. That's why they wasn't. Their name wasn't on that winners board when they came back in there.
I'm telling you, man. And you know, we met a distributor, Yana. I mean, they had some stuff. You know, Roger and I, we left for some bottles.
I already know the two of you were acting up. I already know. I know how you do. Yeah. I know. I've hung out with the two of you before. I know how you do.
I was the calm.
Hey, but look, I do want to give a shout out to our own Deja Smith. It's her birthday. If you're watching, Deja, happy birthday, and we'll see you.
Yes, happy birthday, Deja. Yes.
So listen, we got a legendary guest tonight, man. This brother, he has been performing with countless jazz artists, countless R&B artists, and countless number of gospel artists. You know, Carsey Anderson's name. He's from Annapolis, Maryland, and without further ado, we are going to bring him to the stage. C-Man, what's going on, my man?
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me, man.
What's happening, brother?
Roger, Yana, how y'all doing?
All right.
Yes. It's a pleasure to have
you. To the show. Thank you for joining us.
It is a pleasure to have you, my brother. Now, the way we start this show off, man, we travel back down memory lane, okay? Tell the viewers out there where you're from, where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in Annapolis, Maryland. I come from the great neighborhood of Browns Woods.
Wait.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Annapolis, Maryland, man. My father, Kenneth Frederick Anderson. My mother is Ada I. Anderson. My mother was from Glen Burnie, Maryland. My father from Annapolis, and it was 8 of us. We had a blended family. When my mom and my dad married, they had the 3 of us, and when my sister Cheryl, she passed, it'll be 10 years next month. So it's just the 7 of us now, but I thank God we're still here. And tomorrow is 30 years that my father has been gone. So
Okay.
so
Okay.
so that's a little bit background from where I come from.
All right. So, what are some of the things you did while growing up?
Man, from the age of 5, man, I was going around with my father. He was a quartet singer. He sung professionally with Julius Cheeks, which was considered the godfather of quartet gospel music. From that point, man, I was going around seeing groups like the Mighty Clouds of Joy, Soul Stirrers, Nightingales, the Keynotes. I mean, just about any the Swanee Quartet, any group you can imagine, quartet-wise. Traveling with him at an early age, and then through the years, as I got older, I started to forge relationships with those groups as well. So.
Okay, so now was there anybody that you looked up to as a mentor while uh, venturing off in your journey in the musical world? Was there a mentor that you looked up to?
Man, for a long time it was really my dad, because my dad was really that first level of influence for me with my music career. And as I got older, but as I got around to see different musicians and be in different environments, church as well as outside of church, it was just really the folks that were around me. Gordon Henson Dada, that's my cousin. My uncle is Tony Spencer. I had music, a level, so much influence of music around me, and a lot of times when growing up back then, it was like my father always said, "That's your cousin, boy. That's your cousin," or different folks like that. So it was just a blessing to have that level of influence around me, And as I got to be around, as they say, superstars or people that were doing bigger things in the business. My godfather, Mike Cook, who used to sing with the Clouds before he passed, he became really that person that took me under his wings after my father passed. So, and that was in '95. So, from that point on, up until his passing in '08, I could really say he was the one that I really looked up to. So.
Awesome. Now I'm going to pass it over to Yana, but before so, I want to welcome Margaret and Nick to the show. Welcome, Margaret. Welcome. On you, Yana.
Awesome. So tell us about where you went to school. Where did you go to school? Where did you attend school?
Okay, but I went to Arnold and Broadneck Elementary School. And then I went to, Magazine Middle to Seven River Junior High School. And then I graduated from Broadneck Senior High School. And I took about maybe like a half of a year semester at Anne Arundel Community College.
Okay,
awesome. And what type of student were you?
I was one of those students that I was the type of student that the teachers would call and send letters home, say, "Hey, Miss Anderson or Mr. Anderson, you guys have any more kids like that? We need some of those in the classroom." So, so I was a very jolly type of person, just a very friendly type of person. As they say now, I never really meet a stranger, anywhere I go. So that's how I was growing up at school, and surprisingly, I was in, and I don't have a problem saying this, I was in a lot of special education classes growing up. But come to find out, as I got older, as I was moving through the school system, a lot of times those teachers had me in the classes because of the type of person I was. What I was giving off to the other students. And my parents was like, no.
That sounds illegal.
Yeah. Well, we like Carl's presence there. And my father was like, no. My father, look, he may take a little more time than others, but he can still do the work if he applies himself. So my son needs to be in these other classes. So I thank God for my parents that took the initiative to do that, So.
Absolutely. Roger, I'm going to pass to you.
Okay. All right. See, man, you say you're from Browns Woods?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is Kenny Anderson related to you?
Yeah, you're talking about Kenny Anderson is my brother.
Yeah. Okay, I don't remember you, but I remember Kenny because Eddie Woodard, William Murray, those guys.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my then you must know Ed and Hattie Hunt.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those are my grandparents. So
Oh.
you was way, 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 way young than yeah, because I was over there all the time at Brownswood. So that's funny how every time we keep meeting people on this show and somewhere that what about Keontae Stansbury? You know him?
Yeah, that's my cousin.
I don't think we relate. See,
I just related to everybody in Annapolis.
So. Well, you gotta look at it like this. My parents, my mom, my grandfather, Ed and Hattie Hunt, they had 20 kids. So, grandkids go on, go on. And Keontae's mother is my first cousin. His grandmother is my aunt.
Oh, well, yeah.
So you related to Alvin.
Yes. Yes.
You related to Alvin. That's how Keontae is your cousin. Mm-hmm. Okay. We might be family. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up. But just to make sure to keep the record straight, that school stuff when the teachers was asking for do you got another one like him? That wasn't me. I'll clear that right up. That was not me. No teacher ever called home and told my parents, you got another one like this guy? No, sir. So that's good, man. Now I'm gonna have to research. I'm gonna call Keontae when we get off this. But yeah. So we already got what started you in music. So you must have went to Asbury Broadneck Church then.
Sure enough.
See? I ain't even gonna go down there with you because we might be related. I was gonna correct. I was a little bit upset because we were before you came on and Yana calling us from Australia. We was talking about the military. He was bragging, talking. I said, well, in '89, I was already a Sergeant First Class in the Army. He talking about he was 11, just to make sure that he was younger than me. He put it out there like, so I was gonna come back at him, but now we might be family. I gotta make some phone calls. But if I find out we're not family, I'm gonna get his number and I'm gonna come back at him with Texas. But anyway, so with the groups that you recorded from, you recorded with, because you got a plethora of stuff on that resume, man. I'm gonna need $20 after it's over, but we'll give it that later. So the groups that you started, like what was the Unity? What was the other one? Connected?
Yeah,
those both are gospel groups, right?
Yeah, Unified was my gospel group I started in 99. Connected came in like 2007. Occupation was 89, was December 89. So we were literally kids starting, and that was my first band, a go-go band, and we did that for a good 4 years. Well, I rolled with the group for about 4 years until spring of 95 when my father was going through his transition phase. But we opened up for groups like Rare Essence, Junkyard, Northeast Groovers. We really carried ourselves for a good bit of time there. So it was a great experience for me.
So with the two gospel groups, were there any similarities, or when you started this group, you went this way? When you was with that group, you went another way? Was there any similarities between the two groups?
Unified was more like my personal baby. It was at a time where I was like late teens, early 20s, and just kind of like finding myself in life, and I was like, I knew God had a purpose in my life. He had a call on my life, and it was like, I was doing something to really try to connect with my peers, up until that time, a lot of the work I've done with groups, a lot of them were older gentlemen or older women or choirs, and so this was giving me a chance to really the opportunity to work with some other, peers of friends of mine. And we had a good run. We was doing a lot of work in some of the HBCUs around the area. Had a lot of programs that we did with a lot of the local churches here in Annapolis, DC, Baltimore, Prince George's County. It was a good run. And then, God just called me from that, and then 6-7 years later, I was on the journey of recording my first gospel project. And so that's really how Connected became what it was, because I was putting together a unit for the band to celebrate my 30th birthday. Ha, ha, ha. So if you want to crack jokes. So I turned 30. And,
well, I got that coming. I got that coming right there. So I don't need no assistance in that. I'm ready.
So with that being the case, it was like to commemorate my 30th birthday and things of that nature. So that's how Connected came about. We lasted, I would say, roughly about 2 years, and had people like Larry Griffin, Dallas Pace, John Bryant. They were part of my team in that band. And, rest in peace to John and Mr. Larry. They were very influential and really, the glue and the pieces I needed to help that have some guidance. I believe in anything in life, you need some guidance. So I'm glad I had those guys around to really help guide me at that time in my life and my career.
Yeah, plus, because that's awesome. So my brother was out there with that go-go scene. I think he called his group "Them Boys." You ever heard of them?
Those
Christopher
boys.
Parker. Those. See, he corrected me. I don't know. I was in the army. You know them, so Chris Bryan and all those guys.
Yeah. Because what happened was those guys they gave occupation really our first chance and opportunity to do certain things, in the scene. Outside of Persistent Groove, which was a group that was based out of Browns Woods, but those boys gave us a chance to work in Eastport Rec, Stanton Center, all around the city, So those, they really gave us that platform to showcase our talent.
Yeah, because they was, of course, I wasn't here. I was in another country, but the rumor was that they really had it going on at one point. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that because I was in the military at the time. But so yeah, let me call Keontae after we get on here because I ain't forgot you said something about them jokes. I'm gonna let you go this time, but you can go on. I'm gonna pass it on over to Army. I'm coming back at you though, cuz I'm coming back.
Hey, so
I'm coming back.
Hopsy is on now. Okay. And Hopsy, I didn't get a chance. I wasn't able to download the photo that you sent, but yes, he is in that photo. See, man, there was countless bands in Annapolis. All right. Mm-hmm. Star Point, one of them. Coffee. Remember the band Coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine. Was there any band and that you were playing with other than who you had mentioned?
Well, my first experience of really being exposed to the Annapolis band sound was Grand Theft. Okay. Grand Theft, Dean Adams, which is my cousin. They came down to Ball Diamond one time and set up their stuff and put on a show. And man, I was about 6 or 7 at that time, 7 or 8 years old. That experience forever, man. Big Derek Brown was playing drums. We call him Junior, was on bass. Dean was on keys.
Joe Johnson.
Yeah, so. Mm-hmm. That was like to see it like in real time. I've been in churches and seen music, and stuff like that, but to see a band, and man, I tell you, that was like a life-changing thing for me because, after that, then it just became the world kind of opened up, and then I got exposed to seeing the XVDs. When they reformed and came back together during when they were doing a lot of debates. You remember they used to do debates festival thing, so one year they had XVDs and Grand Theft play out there. So, then the gospel side was, the Stansbury Singers, the Traveliers, the Queen Sisters, the Silvertones. I can go on, the Johnson family, It's, it was just, it's just coming from every, all angles, But yeah, Grand Theft was really the first real band I saw as a youngin, because it was right there in the neighborhood, so.
Awesome. Now, we saw what you can do with the drums. Is there any other instrument that you can play? And why was it the drums that you chose?
And my father gave me a pair of sticks and a little book. And he told me to follow this Mighty Clouds of Joy album. And as I said, the rest is history. I learned keys as I got older, and I sing as well. But drums was just what really was, was the beginning stage for me, So by the time I got my first set, I kept everybody up at night, times that my room was right next to my parents' room. So when she would come home and go to sleep after she would get off, a lot of times we would come home from school. I didn't know she would be in there, and I start beating and banging, and then I hear her get up. She's like, "What in double?" Whatever. So yeah, so drums just became my love. It's just like my passion. So but as I got into doing production, producing, and being exposed to that, then it was like, I want to do keys, and and then, like I said, I've always sing. There's always singers around me, and having family that sung, and cousins and friends and stuff. So it was kind of like when we would get together, just like most Black families do, right? Well, I don't know about now, but back then we would all get together and sing. So it was like, that's basically how you would learn. If you was flat, they tell you, no, you gotta sing this better. Do this.
So you got to send us a video with you singing, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I thought I may have sent you something because I've been sending different videos out, but
yeah,
I do this. I do my rendition of "Whip Appeal" by Babyface. That's like what I've really become known for the last few years or so now. So.
Okay, all right, cool. And what we had talked about earlier, this is what Hopsy had said. Can you see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Give her a shout out, bro.
Oh yeah, man. Miss Hopsy, man. Like most of the parents in the group, they were our parents. You know what I mean? They. That was one thing about occupation, man. Because people knew my dad. The connection my dad had to the community. Folks was like, a lot of the parents was like, well, hey, if they with Mr. Kenny, we good. And then of course, Darren's father, Mr. Perry, he was there as well. So, just like I said, it was just a blessing to have that type of guidance, protection around us, because like I said, nowadays, parents just let their kids do whatever. But back then, it wasn't like that. You still had to know who your child was going with. The child, the parent would even come into the house and ask, okay, who's your people? You know what I mean? Like now kids, they're just like free willy, you know what I mean? So.
You're absolutely correct. Now I'm gonna pass it over to Yana, okay?
So I'm very familiar with the gospel world and traveling with groups and things of that nature. I did that in a past life. And what I noticed is that, it could be very taxing. So how do you balance between, performing and your personal life?
Wow. Well,
he started scratching his head.
Well, I've been doing this now 35 years plus. The reality is that you have to start looking at, normally our life opens like this. And then as we get older, we start to really, start to define really where we are. And so like I said, I'm turning 47 next month. It's just about really understanding that you got to recognize what your body's telling you. Staying on your health, eating right, drinking water and not a bunch of soda and alcohol and smoking weed and all that kind of stuff, and you really have to give yourself time to rest. Mm-hmm. And when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes back in 2010, and my glucose reading was at like 500, and I'm sitting in my doctor's office, and he's like, "Why are you not in a coma?" That was like a reality check for me. It was like, you either get your life together or you won't be here. And it took me some time. It was a process, but I thank God, like I said, I have it under control and really on the path of reversing that. It's a lot of times we get so consumed with just, well, I can just, cope with it. I don't want to just be coping with it. I want to do what I can to change it, to reverse it. So I just really encourage anybody that's in any type of industry that when your time that you're putting into that industry weighs more than what you do for yourself, then you need to reassess what you're doing.
Very good advice. And so, familiar with that world, and I'm going to leave it there. But what I want to ask you is, out of all of your performances throughout these years, what was your absolute worst experience? Where were you? What happened? If you don't want to share where you were, at least share what happened.
I was at the Birchmere about, I guess it's going on about 13, 14 years ago. I'm not going to name the artist. It's really, it doesn't really matter. But For the first time, I actually experienced what it was for someone to say, "Look, I don't want that guy. Like next time we do this, don't call him and don't call somebody else." I was reading his lips, and I said, so after that, I prayed and asked God. I said, "Look," I said, "Lord, I'm not gonna worry about it, but God Himself." I said, "No." So I told my partner who got me the gig. I said, "Look, man, Jesus Himself would have to come down here and come in man form to tell me to do this gig again. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't have to ever work with that joker again." So that was probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had on stage. But it was still a learning process for me because I was still learning, working with certain artists and working on that level of professional, being that professional. So it's just, even though it may have been worse for me, but I still gained the lesson out of it. So it just showed me that you need to always be prepared and never allow the artists or those that you're working for regret calling you. So yeah.
Wow. All right, Roger, it's on you.
Yeah, well, I could relate to the diabetic thing because I went down that path and I was in the hospital. I almost went to a coma, but the COVID had shot my numbers up. I was a pre-diabetic, and then so I know exactly what you're talking about, being eating and the healthiness and all that good stuff. And so far, everything's been fine. My number's been like somebody who don't even have diabetes. But you're right. You got to stop doing the other stuff, the smoking, the drinking, and all that. Wasn't a big smoker or a big drinker anyway. I was involved in other things. But anyway, so
you was a go-go dancer, Roger?
With huh? A what? I was a what?
You was a go-go dancer?
I was something. I was in the military, man. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna leave it at that. And I'll say this: I did enjoy my time. So, but so with
somebody said, "Do tell." Somebody in the
well, I put it this way: I know some go-go dancers. But anyway, with you, let's get back to you. And speaking of go-go, was it ever? Ray Charles was really the first guy to take, the rhythm and the blues and mix it with gospel music. That's when he came out, the rendition of Georgia. Mm-hmm. Now, did you ever take the go-go and mix it with the gospel music and come out with a certain project?
I've done certain things on stage, but haven't recorded it yet. But it's been a blessing because I've worked with two of the most iconic groups in the go-go scene and recorded with them. And just had a single release last week with Go-Go Mickey. I'm on Go-Go Mickey's new project, but I had a chance to record and work with Triple Funk and Rare Essence. So since I was aged, since 86, I was a go-go fiend, Junkyard and, all of that, Chuck Brown and, Hot Cold Sweat, those groups, so I've always loved merging the two. And the thing about it is that when I travel around the country, people are just so fascinated with that sound. It's nothing like that rhythm. It's nothing like that go-go rhythm, man. I mean, I performed at Catalina Jazz Festival over 15 years ago. Those white people was losing their mind. They gave me, it was a segment in the show that I would do a little solo, kind of get the crowd hype. Man, those people were losing their mind, man. It's just something about that rhythm, So, but I've loved, Chuck Brown did it. Some other groups have done it, but man, it's nothing like merging those two, so.
Oh, that's awesome. So while you was playing your music, was you dancing to it?
No, not like you, but I've had my chance.
Good catch, because I took a chance. Good catch.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
So
no,
I saw this. No, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say is that I'm glad that I'm a drummer because a lot of my frustration, stuff that goes on in my life, man, being able to play drums, man, a lot of times people don't realize I'm just beating my pain away because that sometimes, man, life can be, can be a little rough, man. But I'm the type of person that you've got to enjoy what you're doing. So when people see me back there moving and, I'm getting people, getting the crowd involved, man, I just believe, man, I can't see how you can go to a show and just sit there and look dumb. You know what I mean?
Oh, so you not dancing, you rocking. So you doing something new, go rocking.
Yeah. I mean,
So that okay, all right. I
yeah.
knew it was something. Young kids always coming there with something new. So I saw this thing in your bio. What is concrete pocket groove? What is that?
Man, look, I'm gonna tell you something, and I hope these young musicians are listening. There's nothing like a pocket, man. You know, as a drummer, we are the pulse. And when the pulse is off, my lord, even as an artist myself, when I sit and be in concerts and I hear something that's not right, I'd be like, whoa, you know, because at the end of the day, people are going to be doing this, you know, or whether it's a beat, slow, fast beat, or whatever. The concrete pocket is just that I'm known for my pocket all around this country, all around this world. That's people know me for. Solid pocket. Like, you know, I can be fancy at times, but I'm going to pocket you down all night because that's what pays my bills. That's what I get paid to do. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, being a part of a band, you've got to play and stay in your lane. And the drummer's to keep the pocket. If the drummer's out of sync, it's just like trying to build a house on sand. It's not going to work. So it's important that the pocket is there, man, you know, and I love it because it's nothing like grooving and getting locked in with the bass player and everything else starts, you know, you start adding those layers. Oh, man, it's
Right. You on point, man, because it's natural blue. She all over this thing. She says she like the shots that we throwing back at each other. I've been keeping count. I'm up by one. So I'm gonna go
okay.
ahead and I'm turning it over to Armin.
See, man, look. All right, may he rest in peace, Chuck Brown. But I'm a big Tony fan, bro. You know, always been a big Tony fan. So you actually perform with Big Tony?
That's my big brother.
That's your big brother? Okay. All right. So what was your experience like when you actually performed with him? Or even, you know, collaborated with him?
Well, let me tell you this. Trouble funk is not for the faint at heart. Most time when you hear people talk about go-go, they just think it's just a bunch of as my father would say back in the day, right? What made Trouble Funk so unique and why they're the most sampled go-go band of all time? Okay, so don't let anybody tell you, come on here and tell you anything different. Trouble Funk is the all-time sampled go-go band. Okay, they've been sampled the most out of any go-go band because they had integral parts. Every part in that band played a very important part in that music, in that composition. Okay, from the cowbell to the horns, to the bass line, to the drums, to the vocals, everything. I mean, it's literally just like an engine, you know. And you know, just like any new situation, I had my challenges coming in the door. But Tony was the type of person that, like he say all the time, he's like, "See, man, he said Big C. That's how I got the name Big C. He donned me the name Big C because I was a lot bigger when I met him. But he was like, look, he said, look, man, I love your groove. Getting back to what you're saying, Roger, about the concrete pocket, he's like, I love your groove. And playing that Trouble Funk, the drums has to stay in the pocket because there's so many other elements to that music that makes it, you know. We talk about Pump It Up when you talk about Drop the Bomb, you know, Let's Get Small, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you talk about some, you know, like, I'm going to tell you, the first time I experienced what Trouble Funk's, the effect that they had on the industry is we did the 80s was the greatest show with Chuck Rock, Slick Rick, Dougie Fresh, and Naughty by Nature. And to see how that crowd acted when we did Drop the Bomb or pump me up. Boom, cockadoo, cockadoo, cockadoo. Oh man, it was like I had to console myself, but I'm performing. But you know, to see the crowd, man, it was just like nothing like I've ever experienced, man.
Wow. Well, you know, I'm looking at your list, man. You actually performed with the Stylistics, Blue Magic, New Birth, Bloodstones, The Emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You did. Now that's big time, bro. I'm not now sizing Trouble Funk because I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's huge, man. What kind of experience was that? And How many of the original members did you perform with?
Okay, so I was introduced to a brother named Keith Showtime Busey, who was a part of the Busey family, which they're go they're they're very they were the Pump Lenders. If you've ever heard of the group, the Pump Lenders from back in the day, um, that was their family group, and I met him roughly in like 2012, 2013, and he connected me in 2014, gave me the opportunity to do that show, but the 70 Soul Jam tour. That's how I worked with all of those groups. At the time, most of those groups, a lot of the singers were still living.
Okay.
But over the last 10 years, of course, a lot of people have passed. Like all the original members from Bloodstone have passed on now. Um, I had a chance to work with even Cuban Gooden Sr., the main ingredients, before he passed. I worked with him for a couple of years.
Okay.
One of the sisters from the Emotions, she passed during our time on the road, traveling and stuff. Stylistics, they're two sets. So Russell
Yeah.
Tompkins and the new Stylistics, I'm friends with him because I just met him in some other circles. But we've shared the stage. And then I had the chance to work with the Stylistics a couple of years ago. And New Birth. Now, this funny story about New Birth. We have revamped New Birth. New Birth Legacy now is a new group. I'm singing with them now. So I'm not playing drums, but I'm singing with them now. So,
Okay.
yeah. So we
That's awesome.
yeah, that was something that came about last year, man. So I'm really happy to be a part of that legacy. That musical legacy right there. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Now I don't know who this Nature Blue is. Apparently, you may know her, right? But she also mentioned the Drifters. So you played with Drifters too?
Charlie Thompson, that was her dad. That's my sister. That's like my big sister. I met Charlie Thompson before I even did any of the 70 Soul Jam stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I met Charlie Thompson back in like 07. Oh, yeah. 06, 07. Yeah,
Wow.
so 06. It was like 06. I met him back in 06. And he recently passed. I guess it's going on a couple of years ago now. And it was just a great experience. They laughed at me when I first came to the bandstand that night because it was like, who's this young cat on the drums? It was like, what does he know about this music? But I have to say, man, it was just a blessing to work with him. And one thing about my career, I thank God that I was involved, but I never got caught up like in the stardom stuff.
Yeah.
So I was able to really appreciate the experience. I was able to really appreciate the knowledge and stuff I was getting from those folks because I wasn't starstruck. It was like another day at the job. But thank God for having the spirit and that type of, having that type of spirit that when I came into the room, people like me being here. You know what I mean? So being in this music business, there's a lot of folks that walk in, they try to tell you, they walk in the room and you'd be like, oh God. So,
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. So I'm gonna pass to Roger right now. Yana is having internet connection problems. So on you, Raj.
Yeah, man, you've done a lot in a short period, and you've met a lot of very interesting people. Now, Ayana had asked you what was your worst. Now I'm gonna ask you what was your favorite place, best place to play music. I mean, perform. What was your best performance, and where was it? There you go. There's so many, huh? So many. It's just hard to bring it up. Huh?
Well, I wanted to say this. Going back to one of your first questions on mine was about who influenced me. Well,
right.
Obviously the Mighty Clouds of Joy, because that was really what my father raised me on. The Temptations, because I took to just their music growing up, even though they were well in their prime by the time I was here. And then Earth, Wind, and Fire, when I really got exposed. And I've had the chance to play for the Mighty Clouds of Joy. I've worked with several former members of the Temptations. And then I've had the chance to share the stage with Earth, Wind, and Fire. So all I can say is that the one time that the group I was working for, we opened up for Earth, Wind, and Fire, and the guys were like really getting in, really was like giving me compliments about my playing. I was like, man, you know what? Forget anyone else's opinion about my playing. if Earth, Wind, and Fire likes what I do, all y'all can suck my pinky. So that was probably one of my best experiences. One of my best venues to play at was Catalina Island, California, about 15 years ago. That was probably one of the best times I had because, like I said, it was such a diverse crowd, and man, the people were just involved. It was just a blessing to be able to perform in that type of setting. So
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, man. You calling out some big shot. You talking about A-listers up in that camp, which obviously you a part of. Now, I want to go back to the past like Alma does. And first of all, I want to bring up, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because I lost my dad a couple of years ago, and there was sometimes when people ask you, but how was it? If you want to answer that, how was it playing with your father?
Man, working with
Performing
my
with your
dad.
dad.
Yeah, working with my dad. Surprisingly, my father and I didn't do a lot of work together.
Okay.
Growing up, I would travel with the group, and occasionally my cousin James, we call him Jim Jim back in the day, but James Henson, occasionally, which is another one of your cousins.
Absolutely. I just finished. I just asked him. You brought that up. I texted him and asked you was were you related to us? He said yes. That's why I ain't throwing any more shots at you since we're family.
Yeah. Well, my dad and his dad were first cousins. So my grandfather is Carlton Fred Anderson. So, but yeah, so surprisingly, we didn't do a lot together. So it wasn't until, so honestly, he just saw me from afar. He saw me just performing with, administering with groups and, choirs and things of that nature. But he was definitely not only just a fan, but like I said, a mentor. He really cultivated, nurtured, invested me in many ways from a standpoint of just giving me knowledge about what to do on stage, what not to do. We would go to programs and certain things that he would point out, and I still to this day use and go by. You know what I mean? There's just certain things, stage etiquette that we see. Some things people see sometimes on people doing stuff on stage. You're like, what in the world? And I cringe because I'm like, man, who was around these people? You know what I mean? Like, it's everything you do on stage. It is a way for you to do everything. Drinking something on stage, you know what I'm saying? Excusing yourself, there is a proper professional way to do it. You know what I mean? So my father, I wish we had done more together, but I could say that we didn't do as much as I think a lot of people think we did, but it was just a lot of the knowledge that my father gave me. So we spend a lot of time going to programs and, and I'm meeting folks he knew and just learning the craft through that, through that knowledge, that teaching.
Well, you every time y'all perform together, even to this day, because he put those drumsticks in your hand, so he's always with you.
Yes, sir.
And so you every time you perform, Dad's there, and I bet you he got a huge smile on his face. He telling him upstairs, that's my boy, right?
Yeah,
my boy right there. So, and then last question for me, then I'm gonna turn you to Alma. Now, was this always your dream, or it kind of grew on you because you came from a musical family?
No, this is what I wanted to do. My mom early on thought my father was trying to, push this on me. And I remember I was a little kid. I was like, no, Mom, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
Because a lot of things that he was doing at the time, when I was younger to, like I said, cultivate, nurture, invest in me, you know how mothers can be, like, don't be talking to them. Don't be saying that. My father was like, and that's why I thank God for parents and a mother that knew that my father wasn't hurting me.
Right.
But knew that it was important because of the stuff that I was going to be faced with or dealing with years to come, which I could tell you right now, still to this day, just this week alone, there were some things I experienced. And I was like, man, it's nothing but the grace of God that I had a father that taught me these things, because it's a mindset. This business is really about a mindset. You can have all the talent in the world, but there's a lot of talented people. What I got a question for you. What's the most talented and richest place in the world?
The most talented, richest place in the world?
Yeah.
Like city or?
No, just
Just
yeah, well, yeah, just it's just what do you where do you think it is?
New York.
No, the graveyard.
You're right.
Because the bottom line is this: there's a lot of talented folks that have had the ability to do things in life, but they didn't. For some, didn't take advantage of the teaching that they had around them. For some, it just their environment, their situation, um, it caused for them to leave this world early. But the bottom line is that you got to take the initiative and recognize what's around you and listen to those that are teaching, good and bad. Not
Right.
everything that has been taught in this business has been always, even from a positive person. But you got to take it and allow it to fall where it needs to fall in your life.
That's good.
And so ultimately, that's what I did, and that's what I continue to do. So yeah, so that's why I said music. I could dream. I could think of just being a young child dreaming, just seeing myself performing in front of thousands of people, and to see how
Right.
God brought that to pass. Man, it's like, so
That's awesome. That graveyard joint was deep. When I
Yeah.
say it to somebody else, I came up with it. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and
just like we know your favorite dancer with passion fruit, so we all know.
hey, it is what it is, man. Anyway, Armin, we tired now. Now we tired. I gotta go back at them. We tired. See, I'll be writing it down. We tired.
Now, see me. I'm going to mention 3 names to you,
Okay.
and tell me what they mean to you. And they're from Annapolis.
Okay.
Okay, the first one is Art Sherrod.
Art gave me my shot. Art gave me my shot in the Smooth Jazz Arena. So I'm celebrating 20 years in the Smooth Jazz Arena this year. And I started with that guy. And we had some other groups and stuff that we dealt with, that we were involved in. But 2005 was the year that we jumped it off, and look at where his career has taken him. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Wesley Panama Watkins Jr.
Uh-oh.
Man, Wes was very important to me after my father died. I met Wes I want to say the summer of '95. My father passed in June. Well, like I said, tomorrow will be 30 years. So I met Wesley around '95, and from that time, man, from a spiritual standpoint, he was like a spiritual dad. The importance of what it was to keep my eyes and stay focused on God. You know what I mean? And not to allow, what we were experiencing from the loss to deter me or to distract me from still following the call that God had on my life. So that's what part he played.
That's awesome. He actually his band performed at my retirement party, and that brother is he's a one hell of a musician. What does the name Wesley Bean mean to you?
Oh, he's a crackhead. No, I'm just
Whoa.
Nah. Wesley has become, and he probably doesn't even know this, what I'm about to say. He has officially become a brother to me, because he reminds me of my brother Kenny, who used to do music, who doesn't now. And Kenny is in Georgia. Kenny got really bad off on drugs, really bad, but he was very talented. But the reason why I say Wesley reminds me, because he looks like him. But Wesley has that type of spirit about him, that he appreciates everybody. From
Yes.
my perspective, he appreciates everybody. Some of these musicians from this area are very selective. They act like they like people. They have speak to folks. But Wesley has always been a person, from the first time he heard me play, he was like, man, I love your vibe and everything, and we've just become good friends. And I love what he's doing with Clones, what they've done. Man, I'm gonna tell you, Clones of Funk. Man, Wesley will tell you this. This happened. So what? It's about 20 years ago now. God, man, it was a while ago. Ronnie Queen, the sound guy, was turning, I think, 40 or 45, and he had different bands playing. But the Clones of Funk came in there, and when I tell you, they came in there and shut that thing down, Doc. Okay, they only played maybe 25 minutes, man. They came, man. Wesley, no man, came in that joker and shut that thing down. I said, "Oh my lord!" And then they had Mark Brown playing drums. So Mark is probably the most pocketed drummer you ever see and find in Annapolis. But no, he is really, like I say, he's like a brother and he's a good friend, man. So
tell me, bro. Tell me, you sing.
mm-hmm.
Tell me that you sang some bars with Shantae Moore, Melba Moore, Ann Nesby, and CeCe Peniston. Come on now, bro. Now you sing. Now tell me you got a chance to sing with them, right?
Well, I had actually played behind them. I did sing behind Melba. I think I sung behind Ann one time. CeCe and Shantae, all I did was I worked with three of them with art.
Yeah.
So that's how I got connected with CeCe and Shantae. From my connection through art with Ann and I and her husband, they've become family. Melba Moore, I met Melba through working with my brother Keith, Showtime Busey. And now, Melba is like, she's like an aunt to me now. I'll be with her next month at Blues Alley for 2 shows. So I'm looking forward to coming back with her. I've been working with her now for about 5-6 years now. And, a couple of years ago, she got her Hall of Fame, her Hollywood star, finally. Cat Williams was very influential behind that, so I'm just happy to have worked with some future iconics, and those that still are building their careers. I mean, it's just a blessing, man, and some of those artists, like I've worked with, like I said, have gone on. So, some of those artists and groups, man, will never be heard and seen again, man. So,
Man. Well, you know what, man? I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna let Roger say what he have to say, and I want to just say this to you real quick, see, man, before Roger say what he has to say. You are a legend, bro. You are truly legendary. And I'm proud of you. I'm happy that you came on the show tonight. And there's more to come, my brother. There's more to come. Roger, what do you have to say?
Well, you kind of stole my line, and you always do that ever since 3rd grade when you used to copy off my papers. But that's how long we've known each other. But you are iconic. I mean, and like you said, it's a lot of talent, and Browns Woods was full of talent. It seemed like everybody on Browns Woods Road could sing. Mm-hmm. Tony Johnson, Sister. I mean, I could go on and on. My cousin Olivia, Jim, James Henson Sr. I mean, I could just go on and on. Debbie, his mother, Bo Coates, his uncle. I mean, but when you go to the other side, it seemed like all of that happened at Asbury Broad Neck. Now, once you got outside Asbury Broad Neck, they went to their regular jobs, school teachers, nurses, working at Naval Academy. They never took that a lot of them didn't take that blessing and, really from Maynard tried it. And he was out there for quite some time. But, they really didn't take it and run with it like I thought they would. And then I'm sorry to hear about Kenny, man. He was an awesome performer. He really was. That guy was. I remember seeing him going out there as a kid, But like Almond said, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon. And you already iconic to us anyway. I mean, it's just awesome to first of all, to find out that that we related, so no more shots. But even though I got one, I'm saving for the last second right before we leave, so you can't come back. And
passion fruit.
I could tell you about some passion fruits, man. but I ain't gonna get into that.
Baby oil,
They,
baby oil.
huh, boy? Don't get me started. You trying to be knocking on my door, snakes. But anyway, so we proud of you, man, and we definitely was blessed to have you on the show tonight. The people that's listening, the young brother put out a lot of knowledge through all the jokes. I hope you caught on to it, especially about that graveyard thing. Because if we want to go back, it's a lot of athletes from Annapolis that did the same thing.
Yes, sir, man. I thank God, man, for this opportunity, man, and I truly don't take it for granted. And I just thank God that I can still make an impact and be a positive impact on our society.
You definitely are. Armin?
So, see, man, there's a lot of young aspiring groups. What positive message would you leave to them? Like Pocket 3, a young go-go band.
Mm-hmm.
What positive message would you want to leave for those who are trying to get in the business, those are there, and what can they do to remain and even grow even higher?
Yeah, because I'm gonna tell you one thing is for sure. I want the next generation to excel more than what I've done. You don't really hear a lot of artists talk about that because they still living in theirs, or they're still holding on hope to do other things. But it's biblical. Each generation is supposed to excel. Just like my father did certain things, I excelled further than him, and that's the next generation. What I wish for Pocket 3 is that they just not only continue to rehearse, but they educate themselves about the business, even at the age that they're at now. You know, do the necessary things to gain the knowledge, so that 30 years from now, if it's a possibility, if they do some recordings, do some other things, they can reap and live off of that. You know what I'm saying? They can leave a legacy behind. There's no sense of just getting on stage and getting all sweaty and going home. No. Evolve in it, learn, cultivate, nurture, invest in a way so where you can do things different and better from the generation before you. We have to encourage that. Everybody can't be in kindergarten at the same time. We all have to move on.
That's true.
It's powerful. That's powerful. Well, see, man, again, it's been an honor to have you on the show. And this won't be the last. You are legendary. There are things that we are trying to do, and we may want you to be a part of.
Man, I look forward to it, man. Just call me, brother.
That's what I'm talking about. So, before we sign off, I want you to hold on. Just hold tight, okay? So we're gonna ask something to you. Everyone out there to join us tonight, thank you for being with us. Come back next week. We're gonna have Dr. Omar Danner. Dr. Omar Danner is the one that performed surgery on Sylvia Ennis. He's the one that saved Sylvia's life. He's going to be on the show with us next week. You want to tune in next week and just see what it was like. That was a life-saving experience, man. Again, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week to another exciting show. Peace.
Yeah, so man, peace everybody. Didn't give me my shout out. He took everything out. And so peace everybody. And man, get my information from Armin because I got some stuff that can help you with that diabetes.
Okay.
All right.